everyone. If you're just joining on, I'm just going to give a few seconds for anybody who's looking to get joined on. You will find that you've been automatically muted when you come in, so don't worry too much about that. I think it looks like we've got most people in. Welcome to the session, everybody. Thanks very much both to speakers and to participants for coming along to this session this afternoon, which is actually our penultimate day of the Find Your Futures fortnight or so of events that we've been running. I'm going to do a very, very quick introduction, which will probably take less than 5 minutes, just so you all know what to expect from the session in terms of how it's going to run, and a few housekeeping things, but then very quickly hand over to our speakers, as I'm sure that's who you most want to hear from and why you've come along this afternoon. So we are recording the session, and we've already turned on the recording of the session. That's so that we can make it available via YouTube. So anybody who's come here to listen can go back and listen again if you want to. And also for anybody who's a student who's been unable to come along this afternoon can access that afterwards as well. If you don't want to be shown in the recording, that's absolutely fine. You just need to make sure that you have your camera off throughout, and then you won't appear in that, and that should be no problem. I'm going to hand over to the speakers in just a second, and they're going to give a very brief overview of themselves and the organisation that they're representing. That will only take in total probably around about 20 minutes, so it'll take us until about half of the time that we've got available this afternoon. And we've got a lot of time. We've got half of the session, the rest of the session, for anything that you guys really want to know or want to find out. So you might already have questions in mind, which is fantastic, or you might think of things as you're listening to our speakers that you might want to know about their organisations, about their own sort of personal career journeys, any top tips, anything like that. So there's a couple of ways that you can ask questions. Easiest one, and probably the most familiar to you, is if you use the chat function on Zoom. So you can type into the chat function as we're listening to the introductions, or when we get to the end of them. Or if you want to, when we get to the end, we can switch out of sharing the slides. And if you want to, on camera, so you can put your hand up, either literally put your hand up like this if you're on camera, or use the raise hand function on Zoom, and then if you unmute yourself, obviously you can engage with our speakers that way. What I will do then, so I think that's most of the housekeeping that I wanted to cover. These are the organisations that we've got represented this afternoon. So we've got Molly, who's going to be speaking, first of all, who's from the National Graduate Development Programme. Then we've got two people here from Northumbria Police. We've got Kat and we've got Rena, who will be speaking second. And then finally, from Teach North and Outwood, we've got Emma, who will be speaking at the end. So I think that's everything that I had to cover in terms of how the session's going to run and housekeeping. So Molly, if I stop sharing, if you want to switch on to sharing your slides, you can make a start for us.
Fab, thank you. Just be 1 second. Okay. Is that sharing?
Yeah, we can see that.
Fab. Right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm here on behalf of the National Graduate Development Programme this afternoon, and I was actually on the programme from 2019 as part of the cohort 21 at Doncaster Council. I graduated in 2019 summer and started the kind of graduate programme in October, so quite a recent graduate myself. So I'm just going to quickly run through kind of what local government is, what the scheme is, and kind of why you want to choose the scheme and how you can get involved with it. So what is local government? So often when I say I work in local government, I get a bit of blank looks. What does that actually mean? Say, oh, I work for the council. And people go, oh, the council, yes, yes, yes. But I think when people think about the council, they often think about bin collection, people think about fly tipping. They're the kind of most visible outputs of the council, but really there's such a variety of things that the councils actually do. We can see on the screen. So in England, more than 1 million people work in local government across a range of different types of authorities, and there's more than 800 different services that they provide to local communities. So what is the NGDP? So the National Graduate Development Programme, bit of a mouthful, for local government, I think is one of the best kept secret grad schemes. So often people don't really know about it, or when you explain it, you have to fully explain what it actually is. And I sometimes translate it as the local government equivalent of the civil service fast stream. So it's operated centrally by the local government association, and they administer all the training through them, but you're actually employed at a council and you work for them for the whole 2 years. So for example, I was at Doncaster. To have colleagues who work at North Tyneside or at Northumbria, which are local to you. But there's a whole variety of councils that sign up, from Newport to Bradford to Westminster to St Albans. So if you just check the website, there'll be loads listed there, and there'll probably be plenty more to sign up for this coming cohort. So why the NGDP? I think probably like everyone else will hear to say from the public sector, is because you can actually have an impact and a positive impact on other people's lives. And as cheesy as it sounds, make a difference. So for me, as part of my placement during COVID-19, actually I was part of setting up our very own track and trace system and doing track and trace calls. And that's obviously quite a dramatic example, but something more mundane was leading the procurement of 50 football posts and having them installed in the community. And I think the other thing about the NGDP is that the work you're given to do as your mainstream work often has really strategic significance, which means it should be challenging, but as a graduate, it's something you'll be more than capable of. So what does the NGDP offer? I think it is a very whole package grad scheme, and it's tried and tested. This is the 24th year they've been running it, and it's delivered by people who really care and at a level that is challenging enough for a graduate. And the respect for the scheme is quite incredible. So chief executives of the council came to our open day and gave a talk and met us all. And we even have the leader of the LGA speaking at our end of graduate programme event on Thursday in person. I think that also translates to the level of your work. So often you'll technically be the most junior person in the room, but your contributions are respected and most importantly valued. And something which isn't often talked about is the level of support you get as well from the LGA. You have a peer network there, you have your placement coordinator, your buddies and your mentor. And I think as well that something that I didn't think about as a student was my work-life balance. Sounds a bit boring, but you actually do get a very enviable work-life balance with excellent flexi time and with good annual leave entitlement. So who are we looking for? Basically, anyone with a minimum 2-2 undergraduate degree in any discipline whatsoever. I did anthropology, which was quite random, and you have people who did law, biomedicine, anything really, a whole range who apply for the scheme. It's just because they have the one thing in common, which is about being passionate about making a difference in their communities. And so a few tentative key dates. I'd advise you to look to the website for guidance on all of the application process, but applications are now open and they close on the 5th of January. So you've got a fair amount of time to get those in. And then you go to the video interview stage, then you go to the assessment centre stage. And once you get there, you meet with individual councils and interview there to find your offer. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much, Molly. Next up, we've got Northumbria Police. So Kat and Rena. Kat, I think you were going to share the slides if you're ready, if you want to just pop them up now.
Indeed. Hi everyone, so Rena and myself are here from Northumbria Police. We've got a few opportunities available at the moment for graduates and some really exciting opportunities. I don't think policing has seen that in quite a long time. So we're here just to talk a little bit about what those are and how you go through the process as well. Normally it's quite a long presentation, but I appreciate we're a bit more limited on time, so I'll get to the key points, and if there's any questions that you've got, feel free to ask myself or Rena. We're happy to give you the information. But what we'll do is get down to the main points. So there are various entry routes into policing at the moment. As an organisation, we are a very large organisation. We have something around 4,500 police staff members. That includes constables and police staff members as well. At the moment, we'll just talk a little bit about the police constable route and the detective constable route, and I'll give you a little bit of information as well on police staff roles that have become available as well. But currently you might have heard of something called Uplift, which is the recruitment of 20,000 new officers across the UK. Obviously Northumbria Police are participating in that as well. So throughout each year we're having 4 intakes into our police constable programmes, and therefore we have recruitment open quite often throughout the year. And this will be running until 2025. So if you're at the point now that you're not entirely sure if now is the time for you to apply, you still have a bit more time. I think recruitment will run until about 2023. So there are a couple of options which are available more so to you as graduates or will become graduates soon. So we've got something called the Police Constable Degree Apprenticeship. Now, that one's for those who haven't obtained a degree or those who are currently in a degree, not quite happy with where they are and they want to move on. So you can gain a degree as you are, as you join. For yourselves, you'll be looking at the DHEP programme or the GDP, so your degree holder entry programme or the graduate detective programme. With the degree holder entry programme, you'll join, you'll go through the recruitment process, so you have an application. If you're successful there, you'll get an interview. If you're successful at interview, move to your assessment centre and then be placed onto one of our 4 cohorts throughout the year. So we have March, June, September and November. With the degree holder entry programme, you will come out with a qualification at the end of that. So you would come out with a diploma in professional policing. And that's fully covered by Northumbria Police, so it's kind of like a second degree, but you will be working from day one as an officer and you will start earning that wage as well. With the DHEP, you are looking at going down the police constable route, so you've got obviously more so your response policing, you're Bobby on the beat sort of thing, but with your graduate detective programme, that's you're looking at going down more of a detective route. So with that, it's a little more intense. You will still come out with that diploma in professional policing, but you are then looking at doing your national investigators exam and going down that detective route as well. So that's a really exciting programme, again, covered by Northumbria Police, so you do get that qualification. You are also required to have level 2s, so your level 2s in maths and English. But if you don't have those, I think that's at grade C as well. If you don't have those, we'll also accept functional skills. If you don't have those, there's many college programs that offer them as well. Yeah, that's a little bit of our process. What we're looking for at the moment with people, we want to kind of break that stereotype of what a police officer looks like. What we need, we need people who have strong communication skills, who are good at problem solving, they've got that team working. They're able to have that leadership. You will attend scenes. There'll be things that you come across that are very much you'll have to take control of and delegate tasks. Organizational skills, you're getting a lot of information coming at you at once if you are a response officer or a detective. Therefore, having those organizational skills is crucial. Being able to remain calm under pressure and having that resilience as well. These are some of the key areas that we're looking at. So if you think that any of those sort of match who you are and you're looking for something that's a bit more exciting, no day is the same. Everything that you'll attend will be different. Every case that you'll be working on will be different. This might be the job that's right for you as well. Once you are in the police, whether you've gone down the constable route or the detective, lots of opportunities for you to diversify into different roles. So you've got, you can go looking at the neighbourhood policing, traffic, dog handling, the mounted section, firearms. Again, you could try and go into the detective route through the police constable route as well. But it's just a bit of an opportunity for you to try out different things. It's very exciting at the moment. So, wary we are short on time, Angela, if I can just have how long we got roughly?
You've got 2 to 3 minutes, I think, more.
Fabulous, thank you. Here's just a rough idea of some of the things that you could try after you've got past that probationary period of your 2 years. So if there's anything, like I said, at the end that you want to ask a bit more information about, there's some information there. If you want to jot down anything that looks interesting, more than happy to talk more in more detail in a bit. Our salary progression, so we start from just over 24,500, I think it's actually 24,700, and it will progress to 41 by year 7. So each year you're in the intake, it will start to increase, and then by year 7 we'll be on that 41.5. You can look at doing your lateral moves and going into that detective side, like I said, if you go on the PC programme. look at your promotions. So you've got things like your sergeant and your inspector. You can start looking at that after your 2 or 3 years in the programme. And again, that will the salary will increase as you go through each stage. And then you've also got your opportunities such as fast track from PC to inspector. As I mentioned, we've got lots of police staff roles as well. Again, these are less consistent because with the PC roles, there's something that's running through the Uplift programme. However, with our police staff roles, they come on the system as and when. So it's worth keeping an eye on if there's something that you think actually I'd really like to work with Northumbria Police as an organisation. I'd love to work in the wellbeing team or in the diversity, equality and inclusion team, or say, for instance, the people services team. We've got a lot going out at the moment for the ICT department, and we need some switched on minds with ICT at the moment as well, with us changing all our systems. So if that's something that interests you. But as an organisation, you know, it's really great to work for them. You know, you're working for a sector which is there purely to give back to the public. We're there to support the public, and everything we do, we abide by our values as well. So it's really nice working for them. We do also have the flexi system in place. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I might be looking at my childcare, I might be looking at doing another course, something like that, then we are very supportive as an organisation in people's development as well. What we try and do is get people into the organisation and then look after them and make sure that you're developing and getting through and progressing into various stages as well. So there's lots of information on that. Again, I'm more than happy to give you more info. Some of the benefits, you've got your competitive pension. The police is very well known for having competitive pension. You do come out with a debt-free degree, or again, if you're on police staff roles, you get various training programs. There's an excellent salary progression. We have various sports and social clubs. You do get something called the blue light card, which I absolutely love, which gives you a few discounts in various places. We've got things like gyms and wellbeing clubs, and obviously a good system for maternity and paternity as well. I've kind of rushed through a little bit, just to mention as well, as a force, just like the university has, we have lots of associations, things like the Northumbria Police Ethnic Minority Association, the Women's Network, Disability and Carers, LGBT, Christian Police, Baby Buddies. We do also have a men's network, but unfortunately at the moment they don't have a logo, so just thought to mention that. But thank you for listening, and I will stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Kat. A reminder, if you've got any questions from those first 2 presentations, if you want to get ahead, you can pop them in the chat now. But we'll hand over, last but not least, to Emma for the final presentation, please.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Fingers crossed that's okay. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I think you just need to put them on slideshow. If you can.
There we go. Thanks everyone, thanks for your patience there. Okay, so huge hello from me. My name's Emma Sikora and I'm Director of Early Career Development at Outwood Institute of Education, working really closely with Outwood Grange Academies Trust and also our ITT, or Initial Teacher Training provision called Teach North. Often when I come to these university sessions and events, we have some former students on the call, so big hello. If there is any former students from one of our Outwood academies, we've got nearly 40 academies across the north of the country. And we need teachers ultimately, and we do get lots of interest from former students, which is always a really lovely moment. So just in a nutshell, this is Teach North, and we are a teacher training provider, ensuring that actually, you know, fantastic graduates with fantastic degrees come out of their university education and want to go back into a school-led situation and training provider. So that is us in a nutshell as Teach North. We're currently working with a whole host of different universities. We're really trying to aim to create a sort of a localized situation and system with teacher training, so to make sure that this is a local priority, and we want to support the communities where we do work. So our multi-academy trust, as Outwood Grange Academies Trust, goes from Chesterfield through to Stockton-on-Tees. So lots and lots of driving for all our central colleagues. But we are working alongside the University of York, Teesside University, Durham University, Sheffield Hallam University and Leeds Beckett University. So we really hope there is something for everyone based on your community where you want to be based. We do strive to develop and support and celebrate celebrate those excellent trainee teachers who are well prepared for the teaching profession. It's an intense route. You know, it's a 10-month program. Often people talk about this PGCE year, and that's very much what it is, but it's very much condensed into 10 months. And we know this is just the start of people's journeys into the teaching profession, and we hope that we give you a real platform to succeed as you go through the profession and you know, reach your potential within our academies. We offer a school direct program, which is very much linked to the universities that I've mentioned previously, but giving you that extra layer of support and an extra layer of employability potentially. So having that sort of academy-based support there. So we'll be based in our academy, supported by our really, really well-experienced mentors and our leaders in the academy. It does result in a PGC, so that's the Postgraduate Certificate in Education with Qualified Teacher Status, or you might have heard that as QTS. And there are lots of master's credits attached to our programs as well, to, you know, in the hope that you might want to top up that in your later career as well. So there's a picture here. I always love pictures, and my trainees know I love pictures and love taking pictures of them, making sure they're all right, and celebrating their progress as the year goes on. So this was us back in September. This is down in our Doncaster Conference Centre with possibly about 2/3 of our cohort here. We've got 91 training teachers in total working alongside Teach North and our academies this year. So there they are, all looking super fresh-faced at the start of the academic year. They're still looking fairly fresh-faced at this point, like please know that. A couple of codes here. It's really interesting. We're not using UCAS anymore. That's not a me decision. That's a national decision. So we're not using UCAS for postgraduate teacher training anymore. And the government have brought in their own system. So we are obviously trialing that at this moment in time. And fingers crossed it's working. I did some interviews this morning, so people are getting through. And that's currently been open sort of about 3 weeks now. So I would recommend getting your application in fairly soon to avoid any disappointment there. You can see there we're linked with those 5 different universities, and they all have different course codes on Apply, which is what the new system is called. So we're moving away from UCAS and we're going to this system called Apply. Okay. Now, I could talk to you all day about the teaching profession, and I'm sure there's people on the call that, oh no, I don't want to be a teacher, but you know, please do have a little look. It's probably not what you remember, and it's so different being at the other side of the classroom, promise. Do have a little look at it. It is a fantastic profession, and you know, if you don't believe me, go onto our website at www.teachnorth.com and have a little look at what our previous trainees have said. Have a little look what Benjamin said and Sally. They both work in our academies now. Ben is down in one of our workshop academies and Sally is based in Wakefield, and so they've done fantastically well. And you know, they rave about sort of the support that they had, and actually particularly at such an uncertain time with obviously the pandemic over the last 18 months, teachers really came to the forefront there, and our trainees were incredibly impressive alongside our experienced colleagues. So feel free to connect with our website there and do have a little look at our Meet the Trainees. We've also got a Meet the Mentors section as well, because you know, they are your go-to people when you are in the academy and your ultimate support network. You become their shadow, and you know, they're there to help you every step of this 10-month quite intense program. So yeah, I suppose as a bit of a flavour, just wanted to reach out to everyone and tell you everything about Teach North in that nutshell. But do connect with us on this next level. Either send us a quick email, the email address is just there. You can very happily visit the website. We're also on Twitter as well. We've just got a new Twitter page on there, so I'm looking for followers basically. Please do connect with us on Twitter, and we've got Instagram as well. So just think about your next steps. If you are intrigued about the teaching profession, whether that's primary or secondary, please do visit our website. You can book a one-to-one phone call with our team as well. Generally speaking, it's usually me, and we can have sort of a bespoke conversation. I appreciate people have got different qualifications and circumstances, whether that be financial or qualifications, etc. So please do get in touch and we can have that bespoke phone call, no problem. More than happy as well. Our academies have opened their doors to visitors. I know they had a bit of a sort of an 18-month quiet period for visitors, but now we have opened our doors again, which is fantastic. So you can go and meet our team in the academies and go and meet some real life teenagers, basically. Go and see what they're like, or if you are looking at primary, go and see what some of our youngest children are like as well. Like I mentioned, we are accepting applications via the Department for Education system called Apply, so it's no longer UCAS, so please don't go on there. And we've already received possibly about 50 applications, as I mentioned mentioned, I was interviewing just this morning. We are continuing to do our interviews remotely. We just think this is our most sort of efficient approach, and we've had really successful rates previously. So yeah, we're really excited. And I have to say, of the 50 applications, the real majority are from people like yourselves who are already in academic study and looking for their next steps. And generally speaking, they're just really, really organised prospective trainees, because they want to know what they're doing next September already, particularly before sort of getting into the mix of those dissertation projects and those final year exams and everything that comes with that. So I really do appreciate their organisation and just getting ready, and then the pressure comes off their plans for next year and they know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, we're keen to support you to be organised and to be, you know, well researched and informed in this process. So thank you so much, everyone. And if you've got any questions or queries about being a teacher, please do let me know.
Thanks very much, Emma, and thank you to everyone. I'll just give you a minute to gather your thoughts and think about if you have got any questions. As a reminder, you can either raise your hand or you can type those in the chat. Just had one here, which I think has just come to me directly. The person that sent it, if you're willing to type that in the chat, I can ask that on your behalf to the whole room. If you want to chat individually to one of our presenters, there will be an opportunity for you to do that at the end of the session as well, and I'll explain that when we get to it. So I'll leave that up to you as to whether you want to post the question more publicly or whether you want to have an individual chat, because I appreciate people might have some queries that are more personal to them that they want to share at the end. Can I ask a general question to all of you, really, just while other people might be gathering their thoughts and thinking about specific questions that they might have, if that's all right? I think you all touched on the application process for your different organisations, and particularly on the police side, you did talk a little bit about some of the kind of qualities that you were looking for, but I just wanted to ask you, I suppose, kind of top tips, what somebody who was applying could do really to stand out in the application process, if you had to distill that down to a few sort of key bits of information. Don't know who wants to go first on answering that one.
Happy to go first if everyone's happy with that.
That'd be great. Thanks, Kat.
Yeah, no problem. So our role is very much working with people of the public. You're out there, you're dealing with lots of serious situations. You have to be able to be fair, you have to be able to be unbiased and treat everyone with respect. So really what we're looking for when people are coming forward, yes, you need your education background, and I think a lot of the times people focus on that too heavily, but really we want to know what experience you've had with the public. Have you volunteered anywhere? Have you dealt with a serious situation where you've really stepped up and helped someone when you've not really had to? At work, are the things that you've done that you've gone above and beyond to support someone? This role is very much about caring for the public and doing that regardless of, if there's going to be any gain to yourself as well. So very much, if you've got experiences, if you worked with any communities, any volunteering, and if you haven't and you're still thinking of applying maybe in a year or so, then this time will be very well spent using that time to volunteer and work with people or care for someone or really gain those experiences. Because what you'll find is as you're volunteering, you'll have those experiences where you can talk about them in your interview. A lot of the time we'll say, okay, how did that person do? Yeah, they've got the academic side, but where's their life skills? We need them to be able to show that they're resilient because things will be tough, but it's really a really exciting job as well. So that would be really beneficial for you. I don't know if Rena, you've got anything to add to that.
No, I can't. I think you've pretty much covered everything. What we're looking for are people who share the same values as Northumbria Police, or should I say as a police officer. Those values don't change across the force. We're a service that provides and helps the communities. So as Kat said, and reiterating that, showing this values and what our people want to protect the public, and looking at what you've done in your lived experiences that you can bring to the role. That's really important.
Okay.
I can go next. I feel like they've kind of stolen exactly what I was going to say a little bit. But I think the core principles are pretty much quite similar across the board about thinking about those values. And I think we set out 8 key skills and behaviours that we look for. and looking at kind of any job applications is identifying those kind of, what are they actually asking me for, and thinking about how can I say that I've met these. And it might be, like Kat said, from your lived experience, and looking at things like, I, for example, played a lot of sport, and that gave me team working skills. I was a captain of a sports team, that leadership, and it's things you don't think about, and experiences of dealing with the public, and when you've kept calm under pressure, and you often don't realise that you actually have these experiences, and it's keeping them catalogued and being able to say, well, how does that match that skill, and being able to demonstrate that when you're in an environment such as an assessment centre, or when you're writing your application, or things like that. I think would probably be one of my key tips, and just, like you say, keeping those values in mind. And often in applications, especially at the start, it's often just like a tick box of saying, have they actually got this that matches this? Yes, tick, tick, tick. And that's what they kind of look for. And then when you get further down the line, it's, how do you display those values that we want, and have you got the passion, and how do you reflect that? So yes.
Thank you. I think that's super useful, Molly, because actually it's useful for anybody who's on the call who might have a specific direction in mind in terms of the career that they might want to follow, or I don't know what stage you're at. Even if you're earlier on in your studies and you haven't made that decision to specialise yet, you can still do, can't you, exactly what you've just said, and keep, like you said, that sort of catalogue and bank of examples, and then start to think about the values of the organisation that you're applying to and how to do that. So I think that's super useful advice as well. Anything from you, Emma?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I was just making a few notes there. Just we're looking for this sort of real desire to work with young people every single day. You know, and we work in real pockets of deprivation across the north of the country. So if there's a particular interest that you have where you want to really, you know, connect with a particular community and have a direct impact via those young people, that's what we're looking for. But alongside all that, you know, it's really important to know that school experience is no longer an essential requirement for teacher training. The government appreciated that actually people can't take annual leave, and they've got childcare situations and all sorts of other situations, I'm sure. So this idea that you have to get X amount of days in schools before you apply is not relevant anymore. And we are looking for that raw potential that we can see those transferable skills in our classrooms. And I'm sure everyone else will be on the call. I'm looking for that really high level of written communication. Sometimes when you appear as a person on a page, sort of a reference number and then name and the qualifications, I am looking for that really, really succinct way of writing, fantastic grammar and punctuation, and ultimately you are going to be an educator, and so I am looking for that at the application stage as well.
Thank you very much. I've got one question that's come in directly in the chat, which was going to be specifically for Molly, but actually I'm going to open it up to all of you, because I think it's probably quite relevant to people on the call to hear a little bit about this. And it's really just how competitive your programme is. And they say it sounds quite similar to the fast stream in a sense, which they've heard is very competitive. How competitive is it, I suppose, in terms of numbers of applications versus places that are available? So Molly, if you wanted to go first, we could then go to the other organisations after that, because I think that's quite useful to hear about from everyone.
So I'm going to give rough estimates. I'm not sure on the exact numbers, but I think last year there was around 7,500 applicants, and I think maybe around 200 places. So it is quite competitive, but I think often people do a bit of a kind of sweep with grad schemes and like tick them off. And I think what you're actually looking for is that passion, and knowing why you want to do that, and making your kind of applications stand out by displaying that passion, and that's what you're looking for. I think going through the process and knowing why you want to do the scheme, that's a real strength, and being able to display that. So it sounds scary, but I equally, just my personal experience, I hadn't even had a job before I even applied for this scheme. Kind of did my uni, just went straight onto the scheme, and I was thinking, God, how have I got onto this scheme? I don't know how I've done this. But I think it was just because I knew I wanted to do that, and I did feel passionately about kind of giving back to the local community and doing the different placements, and I knew exactly why that would suit me, and I think hopefully I displayed that and got into the scheme. So I think it is about having those concrete things in mind of why you want to do it, and knowing that and being passionate about it. So don't be deterred by those stats. I think just go for it and be passionate and be confident in yourself.
Absolutely, thank you. And actually that links really well to what you're saying in your answer to the previous question too. Don't know who to go to next. I don't know if anybody wants to go next. I wasn't meaning to test you, by the way, in terms of numbers. A rough idea is absolutely fine if you don't have the exact stats to hand.
Yeah, I'll go, no problem. If you're looking to be a PE teacher, incredibly competitive. And actually the government sets every single provider across the country with a number, and you're not allowed to exceed the number in terms of your recruitment. So just after 2 weeks, we closed our PE programs because we'd already had such an influx that I didn't want to let anyone down or disappoint anyone or have anyone in sort of in waiting. So we'll do our first round of interviews for that sort of that subject, and then if there's any movement there, we would reopen. But actually, as it stands currently, PE is completely closed. So yeah, PE teachers really competitive, and they basically applied within 3 hours of opening on that first day. I would say secondly, our second sort of most competitive subject is history, and then followed by our primary programs as well. But generally speaking, we'll keep those open till about Easter time. The other programs, the other subjects will probably remain open till about June, July time. And so we've got that sort of a general sort of movement across the recruitment there. It's interesting to note that there are bursaries, the government tax-free bursaries in the sciences, maths, computing, MFL, DT and geography. A couple of those are new this year, which would imply that we didn't recruit what we needed to recruit as a nation last year. But yeah, they are really interesting to have a little look at to see if you are eligible for those bursaries. And they also do come up with some scholarship top-ups as well.
Thank you.
So with our police constable and our detective constable programs, we don't actually have a limited number. The way it's running at the moment is that you're basically going up against yourself. So you're going against the recruitment process. If you are successful throughout each stage, then you will be given a place. Essentially, it'll just be a case of when that's available. So each person's recruitment journey is quite different. It can last between 6 to 9 months, so it's quite long. So what the case is, if you apply now, get through, and you're ready for September 2022, for instance, and there are spaces, then you'll be allocated on September 2022. If for one reason or another there's no positions on that, there's no seats kind of thing at the table, then you just move into the November intake. So it's just getting through the recruitment process and getting onto one of our programs. The recruitment process can be quite stringent, can be quite tough. So we tend to have the right numbers for each intake. So if you tend to be ready for that intake, so say you get through and you're ready for June, the likelihood is you'll get on to June. So it's essentially you're going up against yourself, really. But that will run again, like I said, for a couple more years with this uplift program. And just to expand on what Molly said there, like I've said there, it's a bit more, it's quite a can be a tough recruitment process, but always research the organisation you're in general for any job that you're going for. Always research that organisation, always find out what their values are. Most organisations do have them, and see how you match against them. Look at your personal values, and then always talk about that when you're going through your applications. That's just some general advice anyway.
Thank you. I've got 1 or 2 more questions, and then we've got obviously opportunity for any questions for anybody else before we wrap up. I wanted to ask Emma, I think you touched on this and you said that your interviews were all being done remotely, but maybe from the other organisations a little bit more about your process, whether that's being done in person or remotely, or whether you're in a hybrid situation, or whether it's all still a bit of an unknown in terms of how things might change. It'd be interesting to hear a little bit more about that. So I don't know which of you wants to pick up first.
I'm still off mute, so I might as well. So for us, it's still remote. We're still doing our interviews, and the assessment centres actually are virtual. So the interview at the moment is in-house, so it's through Northumbria Police, and the assessment centre is held by the College of Policing. But what would happen is you'd be sent that link. There's 3 links. You do 3 separate parts of the assessment centre. I believe that's what they're going to stick with at the moment for the foreseeable future, but that could change in a year or so. Yeah, so if we do have any changes, we can always update you. For each,
Thanks.
just to add there, for each for interview and the assessment centre, we do provide a briefing. So we'll give you the areas that you'll be interviewed in and materials for you to go away and prepare. We have something called the Competence Values Framework, which helps you, particularly with the assessment centre, we'd be told kind of which areas you'll be assessed on for each question. So that's also very helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yep. I'll go next then. So I think a majority of it is all virtual still. So you kind of have your first kind of application is a situational judgment test, and then you get through to the next round, which is a video interview. So just kind of, it's a bit of a strange situation. So it's good to have a little bit of a practice of basically recording yourself answering the questions to the camera, and there's no one on the other end of that. And then you just send that in and that gets assessed. And then there's a virtual half-day assessment centre that used to be in person. So you used to have to travel down to London to do that. So they've kept that virtual, which I think helps improve accessibility quite a lot. And then with your individual councils, I think it will depend on what the council themselves are doing. I know that in Doncaster this year, they've kept it virtual, but some councils might like you to come in so you can get a feel of the actual place, because often, like, I interviewed down at Greenwich, and I'd never been in Greenwich before, so it was nice to give you a tour of the kind of borough, and you meet different people, and that's kind of a full day like that. So I think it will depend on what actual each council's doing, but I know that we're quite good at making sure that if you have any reasonable adjustments for any part of the application process, then they can sort that out for you as well.
It's good to know. Thank you. Okay, any questions from anybody else just before? I've just got one really to end with. So I've asked quite a lot about the application process because that was something that you picked up on and I thought was useful for people to have top tips. But a question I like, taking you more back to your job, what's your favourite part of your job, or what's your favourite part of your day? I thought that might just be quite a nice point to end on for each of you and for people to learn a little bit more about what it's actually like. So again, I'll leave it up to you to who wants to go first on answering that one.
Actually, I'll go first on that one. Just to give a little bit of background about Northumbria Police and my experiences there. I'm not a police officer, but I've been a police staff for the last 11 years now. So I work alongside my colleague Kat as a positive action advisor. So my role is to try and encourage those from underrepresented groups to come forward and think about a career, not just in policing, but with Northumbria Police. And prior to that, I worked as a police staff investigator, which was quite an interesting role to do. So you're working alongside police officers, alongside detectives, and gaining some investigative skills. So if the role of police constable isn't for you, there are various other roles within Northumbria Police, as Kat touched upon. But I think the most interesting thing for me and rewarding thing for me is in the roles that I've done, in each and every role that I've done in Northumbria Police, without being a police officer, I feel that I've been able to make a difference or being able to help a member of the public. So there's always been that element there. So as an investigator, I dealt with complaints, unfortunately, but it's a dissatisfaction that a member of the public may have felt, and I was able to resolve that and to provide a service where we're trying to redeem the reputation of the force, I suppose, and to explain that, you know, if a police officer's dealt with in a certain way, why is that the case? In my current role, the satisfaction I get is seeing people go through the recruitment process, helping them through their career journey, and seeing them come out on the other end. It's extremely rewarding, making a difference without having to be out there in the community specifically. So there's always ways to help people when you're working in Northumbria Police.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm massively passionate about getting people to the right places and seeing that journey throughout. And for me, teaching isn't just a certificate that goes in your record of achievement folder or a frame on the wall. This is, yeah, it is a qualification, but actually it's unlocking a career with that. So after making sure the trainees are well supported, and they're feeling great throughout the program, my next priority is to make sure that they're employable and they can go to interviews and have a real sense of confidence with their abilities and absolutely go and get that job and impress that head teacher ultimately. So when I support them in that stage, and I help them with their personal statements, and I help them with their interview top tips, and I double check the dress code and everything that comes with an interview, the important one particularly, and then they ring me up after the interview day and tell me that they've accepted the job. That for me, that's a favourite moment. Really exciting, and real sort of credit to the programme in my respect, and the team that we've got. They're ready for the next step, and that they are employable. So that's my absolute priority after making sure they're okay, is to make sure that they've got an employability situation going on and they've got their next steps ready for the following academic year.
Okay, thank you.
I can go next. I feel like I might flip it a bit, because I've got a bit of a secret that I've actually kind of finished the grad program now. So although I'm kind of advertising for it, I'm not actually on it anymore. So like Emma, I almost had a placement coordinator exactly like Emma, who kind of looks after you. You have that. And I don't work for Doncaster Council no longer either, but my placement coordinator encouraged me to go for my current role and supported me throughout that whole process, even though she worked for Doncaster Council and knows that I didn't want to work there. It's not like they like, no, you can't leave, you must stay there. They encourage you to kind of go into whatever field you want to do next, and they give you the tools to do that. So that just made me segue a bit there, because I felt like giving me a little shout out, so thanks for Emma. But I think my favourite part of the role is just the variety. So you probably don't think working for the council you have a lot of variety, but you never guess the things that happen, and things that happen every day. And obviously COVID completely shook everything around and turned it on its head. And at the time now, there's just so much kind of space for doing things differently, and people kind of in a very innovative mindset of how can we deliver services differently, and you have a real opportunity to kind of put your stamp on things and take things forward and look at doing things differently and having that impact for people. And I think people have really respected recently the role that kind of local government have played in helping people in the pandemic, and that it is a kind of viable career choice for young people. Like before I was on the scheme, I would have never thought, God, I'm going to work for a council one day. It doesn't sound the most glamorous thing to do, but it is actually good, and you do have the opportunities there, and it can lead you into loads of different paths in the civil service, going abroad, working for charities, going into the private sector. I think 9 out of 10 people have jobs after the scheme, and 88% of people actually end up working and staying at the council that they're on placement for. So it's not just kind of a 2-year scheme, it does prepare you for the rest of your kind of career onwards after that as well.
Thank you.
I'll finish off then. I'll speak a little bit about myself, but what I'll do is I'll try and give you a bit of information from what we've heard from our officers, because a lot of the time, these are the roles that we're talking about as well. But personally, I did work in the private sector for a little while, and it wasn't for me. I really enjoyed coming into a role where you are working in a public sector, and you're working for people, and you're doing that to benefit the public, whether you are supporting officers coming in or supporting that environment of the officers going out and supporting people as well. So that entire environment of it has really attracted me to the role that I'm in now. I won't talk too much about the positive action role, because Rena's covered that, but we host a lot of events where we have officers come on with me, and I don't think I've had a single event where an officer hasn't said that they wake up every day, they know that every day is going to be different, and they look forward to it. They're excited to go to work, they enjoy their job. And like I've said, we've had several different officers joining us, and that seems to be a common theme that runs throughout. They talk about, yes, they will come across things that are difficult, and you do build that resilience against things, but you always have that team. And there's that cliche of your shift and your team become a bit more like your family, like they're like a second family, because they're going through, they've experienced things that are very similar, and you do create that bond and that friendship. And I think that's something that's so unique in this area. So I think that's a lot of the things that we hear. With the shift work as well, you get that opportunity so our shift works currently work 4 days on, 4 days off. So you could end up having a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off, and that works quite nicely. A lot of people, especially parents, quite enjoy that, having that extra time you know, if the kids are in school, anything like that. So we've had quite a lot of positives that have come. Negatives, if anything does happen that you're that's a bit traumatic, something that's impacted you, we have a really good service where we've got something called TRIM that comes out to you straight away, reaches out, say you've had to deal with a serious injury, or so a murder or a death, anything like that. They will reach out to you straight away, put you on this program, a 6-week program, make sure that you're okay, and then you can always turn to your own shift and talk to them as well. So I think there's that kind of that bond and that friendship and that experience that every day is different, that they talk about a lot of the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. I've learned absolutely loads of stuff that I didn't know before, and I hope that's the case for everybody who's here. I wonder if we can just, it's a little bit cheesy, but give them a little bit of a virtual round of applause to thank them for giving up their time, if you can, or a little virtual round of applause like this. Thank you very much. So there's just a couple more things, and then I will open those breakout rooms, or we will open those breakout rooms in case anybody wants to speak individually to anybody who's here today, and to ask them any more sort of specific questions that they might have. I'm just going to open up a poll for people who've come along as students, so as participants or as audience, if you wouldn't mind giving us just a little bit of feedback. It's just 3 super quick questions, if you wouldn't mind doing that now, and then we will pop the recording off once we've done that, and we will open up the breakout rooms then as well. So I'll just give you a second.